The sun was cruel that day, and so was the land beneath it. In the lawless plains of the Old West, not every monster carried a gun. Some wore the same blood. Near Cimarron Cutoff, a young woman lay twisted in the tall grass, her torn dress fluttering like a flag of surrender. Flies gathered around her face, drawn by the salt of her sweat. The wind carried no mercy, only dust and silence. Tom McCree spotted her from a distance while crossing the plains on his bay horse. At first, he thought it was a carcass, but when the shape moved, when a frail hand twitched weakly, something old and heavy stirred inside him. He dismounted, boots sinking into the hot dust, and knelt beside her. Her ankle was swollen, twisted at a brutal angle. Her skin was gray from heat and fear. She was barely breathing. Tom uncorked his canteen and let a drop of water fall between her cracked lips. She gasped, a sound like someone clawing her way back from hell. "Easy now," he murmured. "You're safe." But she flinched at that word, as if safe was a lie she'd heard before. Her name came out in fragments. Eliza Harper. Her voice was small, hollow, trembling between shame and exhaustion. Tom lit a match, heated his knife, and straightened her ankle with the calm of a man who had seen pain too many times before. Her scream split the still air like a blade, and then silence. When she could finally speak, her words froze him. "Be my brother," she whispered, swallowing hard, eyes glassy with tears that wouldn't fall. "He defiled me." Tom felt the world tilt. He'd heard of bandits, of murder, of men doing terrible things for gold or whiskey, but this was different. This was something rotten from the inside out. He covered her with his coat, lifted her carefully onto his horse, and began the long ride toward Dodge City. 20 miles of open plain, and the sun fell low, bleeding red across the prairie. The light turned them both the color of sorrow. "He said no one would believe me," Eliza whispered. Tom looked at the horizon, jaw tight. "I believe you." She turned weakly toward him. "Then what happens now?" Tom didn't answer. In a land ruled by silence and fear, justice often meant breaking the very world you lived in. By the time they reached Dodge City, night had fallen. Eliza's head rested against his chest, her breath faint. When they rode down Front Street, the townsfolk stopped what they were doing. A man hauling hay froze mid-step. A woman holding a broom whispered something sharp to her neighbor. Tom kept his hat low and his jaw tight. He didn't meet a single pair of eyes. Outside the Long Branch Saloon, 2 cowhands stumbled out, half drunk and full of laughter. "Hey, old man," one called out. "I didn't know you were rescuing strays today." The other chuckled, and that laugh, it made Tom's blood go cold. He swung down from the saddle slow, steady. There was nothing kind left in his eyes. The first man didn't have time to move before Tom's fist hit his jaw with a dull crack. The second tried to draw his pistol, but Tom kicked it from his hand, grabbed him by the collar, and slammed him against the post. "Say another word," Tom said, voice low. "Oh, go on. I dare you." The man didn't. The street had gone still. Tom brushed dust from his sleeve, lifted Eliza down gently, and walked her into the general store. Mrs. Whitlock gasped when she saw them. What happened to her?" "She's hurt," Tom said softly. "You need water and a dress." "Nothing fancy, just clean." Mrs. Whitlock nodded fast. "You bring her to my place. No charge." By the time they reached the small room above the store, the air smelled of soap and boiled water. Eliza sat trembling by the bed, eyes darting toward the window as if she expected someone to burst in. Tom turned away, giving her the dignity this town had stolen. He sat by the door, one hand resting near his revolver. "They all saw me," she whispered. "I'll let them look," he said quietly. "Let them look," he said quietly. "They'll see a woman still standing." Outside, thunder rolled over the plains. Not rain, just the sound of something coming. Tom knew deep down this wasn't over. He looked at her face, half lit by lamplight. "Tomorrow we ride," she nodded, clutching the blanket. "Will it ever stop hurting?" "Not soon," he said, "but one day it won't own you anymore." Morning came quiet and heavy, the kind of quiet that never lasts. Tom rose before sunrise and stepped out onto the porch. Light crawled across Dodge City, painting the dusk gold. Trouble was in the air. You could smell it, same as rain before a storm. Inside, Eliza sat by the window, clean now but pale. Her eyes were sharp again. "Do you think they'll come for me?" she asked. Tom tightened the strap of his hat. "They always come." By noon, the first sign showed. 2 riders tore through the main road, kicking up dust. Behind them rode a third man, tall, broad, with dark hair like Eliza's, Jed Harper, her brother. Men leaned on fences. Women peeked from behind curtains. Curtain. Tom stepped down from the porch, boots crunching on the dirt. Jed stopped his horse in front of him, a cruel grin twisting his face. "Old man," he said loud enough for all to hear, "you got something that belongs to me." She ain't yours," Tom said, eyes cold. Jed laughed. She's family." Tom stepped closer. "She was yours to protect, not destroy." The grin faded. Jed spat in the dust. "A taker," he ordered his men. Boots thudded on wood as they started forward. Tom's hand hovered near his revolver. "But don't do this, boy," he warned. "You'll regret it." Jed sneered. "I already do." Jed sneered. "I already do." Eliza appeared in the doorway, pale but defiant. "Jed, stop." For a heartbeat he hesitated. Then his face twisted in contempt. "Look at you hiding behind another man. You really are what they say you are." "I'd rather die," Eliza cried, "than be sold again." Something broke inside Tom then. The first man swung. Tom dodged, landed a clean punch to his chin. The second reached for his rifle. Tom slammed him against the railing. Jed drew his gun, but Eliza screamed his name, and that single heartbeat saved a life. A marshal's whistle pierced the air. Jed turned his horse, fury in his eyes. "This ain't over, old man." Tom stood still, heart pounding, as Jed rode off into the dying light. Inside, Eliza trembled, gripping the window frame. "He'll come back," she whispered. Tom nodded. "Yeah. And next time he won't be asking. He won't be asking." The next morning dawned bright and too still. Tom saddled the horses before the town stirred. "We're heading west," he said. "A safer ground near Cimarron Crossing." Eliza nodded, hands shaking as she tied a scarf around her neck. They rode out as the church bell rang behind them, its echo fading into the endless plain. By noon, the heat was merciless again. Even the wind had stopped. Tom's gut told him something was wrong. At the edge of a dry riverbed, he saw the flash of sunlight on metal. 3 riders waited behind mesquite brush. Ged's hat caught the light. The first shot cracked the air. A bullet tore through Tom's sleeve, close enough to taste the gunpowder. "Down," he shouted, pulling Eliza off the horse. They rolled behind a fallen log as dust filled their lungs. Jed's voice carried across the field, harsh and laughing. "Just one what's mine." "Issue was never yours," Tom shouted back. Silence, then the crunch of boots on gravel. Tom's fingers found a coil of rope near the saddle. He looped it around a wagon axle and waited. When the first man stepped too close, Tom yanked hard. The man fell face first, losing his gun. Tom lunged, drove his shoulder into him, and swung once. The crack of bone echoed. Eliza grabbed the dropped rifle, hands trembling. She fired. The bullet went wide, kicking up dust near a horse's hooves. Startled, the animal reared, throwing its rider into the dirt. Tom moved quick, boot pressing down on the man's chest. Jed stepped out last, gun raised. "You can't stop me," he hissed. "You think you can save her from the truth?" Tom's voice was steel. "The only truth I see is a man who forgot what it means to be human." Jed fired. What it means to be human, Jed fired. The bullet grazed Tom's ribs, knocking him back. Before he could reload, Eliza swung the rifle butt hard. It struck Jed's temple with a sickening thud. He staggered, eyes wide, then dropped to his knees. Tom caught her before she collapsed. "It's over," he said softly. But even as the words left his mouth, the sound of distant hooves filled the air. Many of them. Tom turned toward the horizon. "They're bringing the law," he muttered. And maybe worse. 6 riders appeared over the ridge. Blue coats, polished badges glinting in the sun. The cavalry. And with them Jed Harper, his head wrapped in a bloody bandage pointing straight at Tom. "That's him," Jed shouted. "He took her." Tom didn't move. Eliza clung to his sleeve as the captain rode forward. A young man, proud and cold. "Sir," he barked, "you're under arrest for harboring a runaway and assaulting a citizen of this territory." "I didn't take her," Tom said evenly. "I saved her, but we'll let the judge decide that." Tom knew then that if he went quietly, Eliza would never be safe. He unbuckled his gun belt and let it fall to the dust. 2 soldiers stepped down, tied his wrists. Tom raised his voice so all could hear. "You want justice?" he said. "Then hear the truth first." He told them everything. The girl dying in the Grouser brothers' betrayal, her pain. He spoke without anger or shame, only truth. When he finished, silence covered the valley. Jed tried to laugh. "She's lying," he spat, "as she always lies." Eliza stepped forward, voice trembling but strong. "Then look me in the eye, Jed. Say it didn't happen." He couldn't. The captain's face hardened. He dismounted, boots crunching in the dirt. "A boy," he said, voice low as thunder. "I swear on your mother's grave this girl ain't your blood." Ed's eyes darted away. He said nothing. The captain spat. "I cut the old man loose. Put Harper in irons." Two troopers grabbed Jed as he screamed, "This ain't over." But it was for now. When the cavalry thundered off, Tom knelt beside Eliza. She sank to her knees, tears falling freely at last. "It's over," she whispered. "It may be not over," Tom said gently, "but better." That summer they built a small cabin by the stream. Nothing fancy, just wood, stone, and peace. Tom never wore his gun again. Eliza learned to plant corn and laugh without fear. Sometimes at night they'd sit by the fire, saying nothing, just listening to the sound of the world healing itself. Maybe that's what this story was always about. Not revenge, not survival, but finding a place where kindness is stronger than pain. So tell me, friend, if you'd been there, would you have stood up for her too? And if you believe the world still has room for people like Tom and Eliza, pour yourself another cup of tea. Give this story a like and stay a while on these dusty plains. Now, tell me, what time is it where you are, and are you still listening?